we will go through the topic of research proposal, right? And we will look upon the different steps while writing the research proposal. And these are the steps that we must have to include in our research topic, right? While writing a research proposal. So what is a research proposal? So research proposal is basically an argument for the proposed study, right? So you give an argument for the proposed study that you will be going, or you will be doing these things, or you will be doing these things, right, in a standard format. So that is a research proposal. And the main purpose of research proposal is to explain and justify the proposed study to an audience. So you have a set of audience, right? And to the audience, you need to explain and justify that your study of the research is of this quality, this field, and this is the very relevant field. So you need to justify to your audience that what is the actual research that you are taking, and this is the way you will be solving out the research topic. So let us go through the various steps that you need to consider in research proposal. So at first we need to give a title, right? So a title of a specific meaning, having not too much of vague in the title, or having not lesser in the title shall be given, right? So if the title should not be too long or too small, right? If it is too small, it cannot give the correct idea about the research, and if it is too vague, it is very difficult to formulate hypothesis or understand the research, because there will be a whole lot of ambiguities over there, right? So it must be clearly stated at the beginning of the proposal writing, right? And it should be short, but it should be specific, and it should be time bound. So these things shall be considered while selecting the title of the research proposal. After writing the title of the research proposal, what we need to give is the background information, right? So we need to give the information about the research topic that we have selected, and we need to say the description of the organization that we are taking the research, right? And we need to give the background information of the problem, and we also need to state the relevance of the proposed study, that why you are taking the research. We need to give the relevance of the proposed study, right? After that, we need to state the problem of the research proposal, right? So while writing the research proposal, we need to state the problem. So what is the actual problem, right? What is the need of your research? Why we will be conducting this, right? And what are the problem executed in this research field? We need to clearly mention, right? We need to state the problems, right? The problem statement can be declarative statement, but it can also be in the form of question as well, right? This statement of the problem helps also to attain a focus on the stated goal that gives direction to the research process, right? Statement of the detailed problems is a different variables and associations. At fourth, we need to give the significance of the problem. So why this research is significant, why it is worthwhile for conducting the research, why it is very much necessary for us to conduct this research shall be clearly mentioned in the research proposal. So we need to explain the significance of this research, right? After that, we need to give definitions, and we need to clearly mention the assumptions that we are making in the research proposal, right? And we need to also explain and write about the limitations and delimitations of the conducted research in the research proposal, right? So there may be certain definitions associated with the research, there may be certain assumptions that will be considering in the research, and there may be certain limitations, right? Because everything cannot be true in the research, because there may be certain limitations, right? So there also be some delimitations. So what can be done and what cannot be done shall be clearly mentioned. And it also have to mention that about time, money, data source, that should be clearly stated in this section. After writing limitations, delimitations, assumptions, and definitions, we need to go through the theoretical framework, and we need to review the literature, right? So literature reviewing is a very important aspect of the research proposal, and we need to provide the theoretical framework, right? Which helps to provide evidence that the researcher is familiar with what is already known and what is unknown or tested, right? The variables considered relevant to the study should be identified. A clear explanation of the relationship between the variables, that is independent variables and dependent variables, shall be clearly mentioned, right, in this theoretical section. After that, we need to state the hypothesis and objective. Now we need to explain, or we need to formulate the hypothesis, right, which has to give the tentative answer to a question. And the hypothesis may include the statement of research hypothesis, which the researcher will try to test. While in the case of exploratory research descriptive studies, the specific objective of the study should be presented, right? The statement of hypothesis or objective in advance or the data gathering process is necessary for unbiased investigation. Research methods. So after that, we need to mention research methods, and this research method contains three sections. So first is subject, second is procedure, and third is analysis, right? So in the subject, we need to give the sampling technique, sampling size methods from where we will be collecting the samples, right? In the procedures, we will be going through the procedures, how to measure these samples, right? The procedures that we will be following in the research, right? It describes in detail what will be done, how it will be done, what will be needed, and what data we will be gathering with the help of certain devices. So that shall be mentioned in this procedure section. After that, we need to go through the data analysis, right? Now we need to perform the test of the hypothesis, right? So in the research proposal, the hypothesis testing procedure shall be clearly mentioned, right? So what is the way you will be analyzing the data will also be clearly mentioned, and the methods of testing the hypothesis shall also be mentioned. The statistical tool that is employed in testing hypothesis or measuring certain data shall also be considered in this section, right? So at last but not the least, we need to give the references or bibliography in the research proposal, right? So the literatures you have reviewed, the articles you have reviewed shall be mentioned in the reference section or bibliography section. That may be in any style, APA style, MLA style, right? So there are various style in which you have to give the references, and you have to give references in the alphabetical orders using any style of the standard procedures. So this is the way in which we can consider the research proposal writing elements, right? So we need to follow all these things for writing a successful research proposal.